Bhagwan Sri Raman Maharishi described self-inquiry as a direct method of self-realization. Self-inquiry leads directly to self-realization by removing the obstacles which make you think that the self is not already realized. Meditation requires an object to meditate on, whereas in self inquiry there is only the subject and no object. That is the difference between them. Devotee asked, why should self inquiry alone be considered the direct path to realization? Bhagwan said, because every kind of path except self inquiry presupposes the retention of the mind as the instrument for following it and cannot be followed without the mind. The ego may take different and more subtle forms at different stages of one's practice, but it is never destroyed. The attempt to destroy the ego or the mind by methods other than self inquiry is like a thief turning policeman to catch the thief, that is, himself. Self inquiry alone can reveal the truth that neither the ego nor the mind really exist and enables one to realize the pure, undifferentiated being of the self or the absolute. Bhagwan said, to ask the mind to kill the mind is like making the thief the policeman. He will go with you and pretend to catch the thief, but nothing will be gained. So you must turn inward and see where the mind rises from and then it will cease to exist. Bhagwan said, of course, we are employing the mind. It is well known and admitted that only with the help of the mind can the mind be killed. But instead of setting about saying there is a mind and I want to kill it, you begin to seek its source and then you find it doesn't exist at all. The mind turned outwards results in thoughts and objects. Turned inwards, it becomes itself the self. By study and continuous investigation into the nature of the mind is transformed into that to which I refers, and that is in fact the self. The mind has necessarily to depend for its existence on something gross. It never subsists by itself. It is the mind that is otherwise called the subtle body, ego, jiva, or soul. That which arises in the physical body as I is the mind. If one inquires whence the I thought arises in the body in the first instance, it will be found that it is from the hridayam or the heart. This is the source and stay of the mind. Or again, even if one merely continuously repeat to oneself inwardly, I, with the entire mind fixed thereon, that also leads to the same source. The first and foremost of all thoughts that arise in the mind is the primal I thought. It is only after the rise or origin of the I thought that innumerable other thoughts arise. In other words, only after the first personal pronoun I has arisen do the second and third personal pronouns you, he, etc. occur to the mind and they cannot subsist without it. Since every other thought can occur only after the rise of the I thought, and since the mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts, it is only through the inquiry, who am I, that the mind subsides. Moreover, the integral I thought implicit in such inquiry, having destroyed all other thoughts, itself finally gets destroyed or consumed, just as a stick used for stirring the burning funeral pyre gets consumed. When the mind or ego has to be discarded in any case, Why waste time analyzing it? To inquire, who am I? Am in bondage, and thus know one's real nature in the only liberation to keep the mind constantly turned inwards and to abide thus in the self is the only self inquiry, just as it is futile to examine the rubbish that has to be swept up only to be thrown away, so it is futile for him who seeks to know the self to set to work enumerating the tattvas that envelop the self and examining them instead of casting them away. He should consider the phenomenal world with reference to himself as merely a dream. Devotee said, other thoughts arise more forcibly when one attempts meditation. Bhagwan said, yes, all kinds of thoughts arise in meditation. That is only right, for what lies hidden in you is brought out. Unless it rises up, how can it be destroyed? Thoughts rise up spontaneously, but only to be extinguished in due course, thus strengthening the mind. Devotee asked, when I concentrate, all sorts thoughts arise and disturb me. The more I try, the more thoughts rise up. What should I do? Bhagwan said, yes, that will happen. All that is inside will try to come out. There is no other way except to pull the mind up each time it wants to go astray, to fix it in the self. Devotee said, Bhagwan has often said that one must reject other thoughts when one begins the quest, but thoughts are endless. If one thought is rejected, another comes up, and there seems to be no end at all. Bhagwan said, I do not say that you must keep on rejecting thoughts. If you cling to yourself, to the I thought, and your interest keeps you to that single thought, other thoughts will get rejected and will automatically vanish. Devotee asked, when I think, who am I? The answer comes, I am not this mortal body, but am consciousness or the self. And then another thought suddenly arises, why has the self become manifest? In other words, why has God created the world? Bhagwan said, the inquiry, who am I, really means trying to find the source of the ego or of the I thought. You are not to occupy the mind with other thoughts, such as I am not the body. Seeking the source of the I serves as a means of getting rid of all other thoughts. You should not allow any scope for other thoughts, such as you mentioned, but should keep the attention fixed on finding the source of the I thought by asking, when any other thought arises, to whom it occurs, and if the answer is to me, you then resume the thought, what is this I and what is its source? Devotee asked, who am I? How is the answer to be found? Bhagwan said, ask yourself the question, the body and its function are not I. Going deeper, the mind, Manomaya Kosha, and its function are not I. The next step takes one to the question, where from do these thoughts arise? The thoughts may be spontaneous, superficial, or analytical. They operate in the mind, then who is aware of them? The existence of thoughts, their clear conception and operation become evident to the individual. This analysis leads to the conclusion that the individuality is operative as the cognizer of the existence of thoughts and their sequence. This individuality is the ego, or as people say, I. Intellect is only the sheath of the I and not the I itself. Inquiring further, the question arises, what is this I? Where from does it come? I was not aware in sleep. Simultaneously with its rise, sleep changes to dream and wakefulness. But I am not concerned with the dream state just now. Who am I now in the wakeful state? If I originated on waking from sleep, then the I was covered up with ignorance. Such an ignorant I cannot be, but the scriptures refer to, or the wise affirm. I am beyond even sleep. I must be here and now, and must be, but I was all along in sleep and dream also, unaffected by the qualities of these states. I must therefore be the unqualified substratum underlying these three states after Anandamaya Kosha is transcended. Two Parsi ladies arrived from Ahmedabad and spoke with Bhagwan. Bhagwan, we have been spiritually inclined from childhood. We have read several books on philosophy and are attracted by Vedanta, so we read the Upanishads, Yoga Vasishtha, Bhagavad Gita, etc. We try to meditate, but there is no progress in our meditation. We do not understand how to realize. Can you kindly help us towards realization? Bhagwan said, how do you meditate? Then lady said, I begin by asking myself who am I and eliminate the body as not I, the breath as not I, the mind as not I, but then I am unable to proceed further. Bhagwan said, well, that is all right so far as the mind goes. Your process is only mental. Actually, all the scriptures mention this process only in order to guide the seeker to the truth. The truth cannot be directly indicated. That is why this mental process is used. You see, he who eliminates all the not I cannot eliminate the I. In order to be able to say, I am not this or I am that, there must be the I to say it. This I is the only ego or the I thought. After the rising up of this I thought, all other thoughts arise. The I thought is therefore the root thought. If the root is pulled out, all the rest is uprooted at the same time. Therefore, seek the root I. Question yourself, who am I? Find out the source of the I, then all these problems will vanish and the pure self alone will remain. Then lady asked, but how am I to do it? Bhagwan said, the I is always there, whether in deep sleep, in dream, or in the waking state. The one who sleeps is the same as the one who is now speaking. There is always the feeling of I. If it were not so, you would have to deny your existence, but you do not. You say, I am. Find out who is. Then lady said, I still do not understand. You say the I is now the false I. How am I to eliminate this wrong I? Bhagwan said, you need not eliminate any false I. How can I eliminate itself? All that you need to do is to find out its origin and stay there. Your effort can extend only so far. Then the beyond will take care of itself. You are helpless there. No effort can reach it. Lady said, if I am always here and now, why do I not feel so? Bhagwan said, you says, who says that you do not? Does the real I or the false I? Ask yourself and you will find that it is the false I. The false I is the obstruction which has to be removed in order that the true I may cease to be hidden. The feeling I have not realized is the obstruction to realization. In fact, it is already realized. There is nothing more to be realized. If there were realization, would be something new which did not yet exist but was to come about in future. But whatever is born will also die. If realization is not eternal, it is not worth having. Therefore, what we seek is not something that must begin to exist, but only that which is eternal, but is veiled from us by obstructions. All that we need to do is to remove the obstruction. What is eternal is not recognized as such owing to ignorance. Ignorance is the obstruction. Get rid of it, and all will be well. This ignorance is identical with the I thought. Find its source, and it will vanish. The I thought is like a spirit which, although not palpable, rises up simultaneously with the body, flourishes with it, and disappears with it. The body consciousness is the wrong I. Give it up. You can do so by seeking the source of the I. The body doesn't say I am, it is you who say I am the body. Find out who this I is, seek its source, and it will vanish. Lady asked, then will there be bliss? Bhagwan said, bliss is coeval with being, consciousness. All the argument relating to the eternal being apply to eternal bliss also. Your nature is bliss. Ignorance is now hiding the bliss, but you have only to remove the ignorance for the bliss to be freed. Lady asked, should we not find out the ultimate reality of the world as individual and God? Bhagwan said, these are conceptions of the I. They arise only after the advent of the I thought. Did you think of them in deep sleep? Yet you existed in sleep, and the same you is speaking now. If they were real, would they not exist in your sleep also? They are dependent on the I thought. Again, does the world tell you I am the world? Does the body say I am the body? You say this is the world, this is the body, and so on. So these are only your conceptions. Find out who you are, and that will be the end of all doubts. Lady said, what becomes the body after realization? Does it continue to exist or not? We see realized people performing actions like other people. Bhagwan said, this question need not worry you now. You can ask if it after realization if you feel like it. As for realized beings, let them take care of themselves. Why do you worry about them? In fact, after realization, neither the body nor anything else will appear different from the self. Lady asked, if we are always being consciousness bliss, why does God place us in difficulties? Why did He create us? Bhagwan said, does God come and tell you that He placed you in difficulties? It is you who say so. It is the false I again. If that disappears, there will be no one to say that God created this or that. That which is doesn't even say I am. For does any doubt arise that I am not? Only if a doubt arose whether one was a cow or a buffalo, would one have to remind oneself that one is not an animal but a man. But this never happens. It is the same with one's own existence and realization. When the mind unceasingly investigates its own nature, it transpires that there is no such thing as the mind. This is the direct path for all. The mind is merely thoughts. Of all thoughts, the thought I is the root. Therefore, the mind is only the root, only the thought I. Whence does this thought I arise? Seek for it within. It then vanishes. This is the pursuit of wisdom. Where the I vanishes, there appears an I by itself. This is the infinite. If the ego is, everything else is also. If the ego is not, nothing else is. Indeed, the ego is all. Therefore, the inquiry as to what this ego is the only way of giving up everything. The state of non emergence of I is the state of being that, without questioning for that state of non emergence of I and attaining it. How can one accomplish one's own extinction from which the I doesn't revive without that attainment? How is it possible to abide in one's true state where one is that, just as a man would dive in order to get something that had fallen into the water, so one should dive into oneself with a keen, one pointed mind, controlling speech and breath, and find the place whence the I originates. The only inquiry leading to self realization is seeking the source of the word I. Meditation on I am not this, I am that may be an aid to inquiry, but it cannot be the inquiry. If one inquires who am I within the mind, the individual I falls down abashed as soon as one reaches the heart, and immediately reality manifests itself spontaneously as I. Although it reveals itself as I, it is not the ego but the perfect being, the absolute self. Bhagwan said, the notions of bondage and liberation are merely modifications of the mind. They have no reality of their own and therefore cannot function of their own accord. Since they are modifications of something else, there must be an entity independent of them as their common source and support. If therefore one investigates into that source in order to know of whom the bondage or liberation is predicted, one will find that they are predicted of me, that is oneself. If one then earnestly inquires, who am I? One will see that there is no such thing as I or me. That which remains on seeing that the I doesn't exist is realized vividly and unmistakably as self luminous and subsisting merely as itself. This vivid realization as a direct and immediate experience of the Supreme Truth comes quite naturally, with nothing uncommon about it, to everyone who, remaining just as he is, inquires introspectively without allow the mind to become externalized even for a moment or wasting time in mere talk. There is therefore not the least doubt regarding the well established conclusion that to those who have attained this realization and thus abide absolutely identical with the self, there is neither bondage nor liberation. Bhagwan said the self is pure consciousness, yet a man identifies himself with the body which is insentient and doesn't itself say, I am the body, someone else says so. The unlimited self doesn't. Who does? A spurious I arises between pure consciousness and the insentient body and imagines itself to be limited to the body. Seek this and it will vanish like a phantom. The phantom is the ego or mind or individuality. All the scriptures are based on the rise of this phantom, whose elimination is their purpose. The present state is mere illusion, its dissolution is the goal and nothing else. Devotee asked, how is one to realize the self? Bhagwan said, whose self? Find out. Devotee asked, mine. But who am I? Bhagwan said, it is you who must find out. Devotee said, I don't know. Bhagwan said, just think over the question. Who is it that says, I don't know? Who is the I in your statement? What is not known? Devotee said, somebody or something in me. Bhagwan said, who is that somebody in whom? Devotee said, perhaps some power. Bhagwan said, find out. Devotee asked, why was I born? Bhagwan said, who was born? The answer is the same to all your questions. Devotee asked, who am I then? Bhagwan smiling, have you come to examine me? You must say, who are you? Devotee said, however, must I may try, I do not seem to catch the eye. It is not even clearly discernible. Bhagwan said, who is it that says that eye is not discernible? Are there two eye in you that one is not discernible to the other? Devotee asked, instead of inquiring, who am I, can I put the question to myself, who are you, so that my mind may be fixed on you, whom I consider to be God in the form of the Guru? Perhaps I would come nearer to the goal of my quest by that inquiry than by asking myself, who am I? Bhagwan said, whatever form your inquiry may take, you must finally come to the end. I, the self. All these distinctions made between I and you, master and disciple, are merely a sign of ignorance. The supreme I alone is. I think otherwise is to delude oneself. Therefore, since your aim is to transcend here and now these superficialities of physical existence through self inquiry, where is the scope for making the distinctions of you and I, which pertain only to the body? When you turn the mind inwards, seeking the source of thought, where is the you and where the I? You should seek and be the self that includes all. Devotee asked, but is not it funny that the I should be searching for the I? Doesn't the inquiry, who am I, turn out in the end to be an empty formula, or am I to put the question to myself endlessly, repeating it like some mantra? Bhagwan said, self inquiry is certainly not an empty formula, it is more than the repetition of any mantra. If the inquiry, who am I, were mere mental questioning, it would not be of much value. The very purpose of self inquiry is to focus the entire mind at its source. It is not therefore a case of one I searching for another I, much less is left self inquiry an empty formula, for it involves an intense activity of the entire mind to keep it steadily poised in pure self awareness. Self inquiry is the one infallible means, the only direct one to realize the unconditioned absolute being that you really are. Then devotee asked, I am told that according to your school I must find out the source of my thought. How am I to do it? Bhagwan said, I have no school. However, it is true that one should trace the source of all thoughts. Devotee asked, suppose I have the thought horse and try to trace its source. I find that it is due to memory, and the memory in its turn is due to prior perception of the object horse, but that is all. Bhagwan said, who asked you to think about all that? All those are also thought. What good will it do you to go on thinking about memory and perception? It will be endless, like the whole old dispute, which came first, the tree or the seed? Ask who has this perception and memory, that I that has the perception and memory. Whence does it arise? Find this out, because perception or memory or any other experience only comes to that I. You do not have such experiences during sleep, and yet you say that you existed during sleep, and you exist now too. That shows that the I continues while other things come and go. Devotee asked, I am asked to find out the source of I, and in fact that is what I want to find out. But how can I? What is the source from which I came? Bhagwan said, you came from the same source in which you were during sleep. Only during sleep you could not know where you entered. That is why you must make the inquiry while awake. Some of us advise the visitor to read Who Am I and Ramana Gita, and Bhagwan also told him he might do so. He did so during the day, and in the evening he said to Bhagwan, those books prescribe self inquiry, but how to one to do it? Bhagwan said that must also be prescribed in the books. Devotee asked, am I to concentrate on the thought, who am I? Bhagwan said, it means that you must concentrate to see where the I thought arises instead of looking to outwards. Look inwards and see where the I thought arises. Devotee asked, and Bhagwan says that if I see that I shall realize the self. Bhagwan said, there is no such thing as realizing the self. How is one to realize, to make real what is real? People all realize or regard as real what is unreal. All they have to do is to give up doing so. When you do that, you will remain as you always are. The real will be real. It is only to help people give up regarding the unreal as real that all the religions and practices taught by them have come into being. Devotee asked, whence comes birth? Bhagwan said, whose birth? Then devotee asked, the Upanishads say, he who knows Brahm becomes Brahm. Bhagwan said, it is not a matter of becoming but of being. In answer to a question as to what is the best way to the goal, Bhagwan said, there is no goal to be reached. There is nothing to be attained. You are the self. You exist always. Nothing more can be predicted of the self than that it exists. Seeing God or the self is the only being. The self, that is yourself. Seeing is being. You being the self want to know how to attain the self. It is like a man being a Ramana Sharanam and asking how many ways there are going to Ramana Ashram and which is the best way for him. All that is required of you is to give up the thought that you are this body and give up all thoughts of external things or the non-self. As often as the mind goes out towards objects, stop it and fix it in the self or I. That is all the effort required on your part. Ceaseless practice is essential until one attains without the least effort that natural and primal state of mind which is free from thought. In other words, until the I, my, and mine are completely eradicated and destroyed. Bhagwan said, how devotee asked, how can one know the self? Bhagwan said, the self always is. There is no knowing it. It is not some new knowledge to be acquired. What is new and not here and now cannot be permanent. The self always is, but knowledge of it is obstructed, and obstruction is called ignorance. Remove the ignorance and knowledge shines forth. In fact, it is not the self that has this ignorance or even knowledge. These are only accretions to be cleared away. That is why the self is said to be beyond knowledge and ignorance. It remains as it naturally is. That is all. In the evening, a visitor asked Bhagwan how to control the wandering minds. He began by saying that it was a question which particularly troubled him. Bhagwan replied, laughing, that is nothing particular to you. That is what everybody asks and what is dealt by all the scriptures, such as the Gita. What other way is there except to draw the mind back every time it strays or turns outwards, as advised in the Gita? Of course, it is not an easy thing to do. It will come only with practice. The visitors said that the mind strays after what it desires and won't stay fixed on the object we set before it. Everybody seeks only that things brings him happiness. Your mind wanders out after some object or other because you think that happiness comes from it, but find out where all happiness comes from, including all that which you regard as coming from sense objects, you will find that it all comes from the self alone, and then you will be able to abide in the self. All doubts will cease only when the doubter and his source have been found. It is no use endlessly removing doubts. If we clear up, one another will arise and there will be no end to them. But if the doubter himself is found to be really non existent by seeking his source, then all doubts will cease. Bhagwan said, concentration is not thinking of one thing. On the contrary, it is excluding all thoughts. Since all thoughts obstruct the sense of one's true being, all efforts are to be directly simply to removing the wheel of ignorance. Concentrating the mind solely on the self will lead to happiness or bliss. Drawing in the thoughts, restraining them, and preventing them from straying outwards is called detachment, vairagya. Fixing them in the self is spiritual practice, sadhana. Concentrating on the heart is the same as concentrating on the self. Heart is another name for the self.